Okay, so just to start off, can you give a brief introduction of who you are and your background as an artist?
I'm Leila Seyedzadeh. I'm from Tehran. I grew up in Tehran, Iran, and in 2017, I moved to the United States to pursue my education and get a master's degree in fine art. And in 2019, I graduated from Yale University School of Art with an MFA degree. And since then, I'm living and working in New York.
Okay. And you can briefly talk about your educational journey, what that's been like, and how those experiences and the knowledge you acquired along the years, how that affected your art.
Sure. I have experienced various fields. When I was teenager, I went to an art school and I got my graphic design diploma. So technically, I started with graphic design. And meanwhile, I was very interested in like doing drawings from landscape views. And I remember in one of my drawing classes, um, we had a few sessions to have drawings from landscape, and we were going to a palace in north of Tehran, and I was very fascinated by drawing from landscapes by like watercolor or ink and charcoal. And then later on, I had some experiences in like graphic design, illustration, and then through those experiences, I figured out that I'm very interested to learn painting, and I did my undergrad in Tehran, and I got a BA in painting. So technically, during those 4 years, I was mostly painting with acrylic on canvas, and it was mostly landscapes with some uh, figures, but very small. And my main focus were mostly towards to the landscape and how the human is like such a small object in regards to the whole universe. And I think little by little I started to like figure out like what am I really interested to do. When I graduated, I started to go to out the streets of Tehran frequently and do observation and drawing from mountains of Tehran. So I became like more focused on like my environment and what am I seeing every day. So I ended up to have a series of drawings of landscape of um, mountain ranges around Tehran. And then in the continuous of that, I was going to a drawing class in Tehran, and I was very curious to um, try different mediums. So meanwhile, I was like doing classic drawings in that private drawing class in Tehran. I started to experience with fabric, and my mother taught me how to dye the fabric, and literally she was helping me to dye various pieces of cotton cloth. And for the first time in our garage in our backyard in Tehran, I started to work on a suspended installation, and then later on in an abandoned house in Tehran, I could have a room for almost a month, and I made a series of suspended installations in form of mountain. and I was literally trying to recreate what is my perception from Persian miniature in regards to the colors and the flat perspective of like the frontal perspective with bird eye view, and also having a dreamy landscape, a kind of like bringing a piece of the landscape into a private room, and having a specific moment with that. And I wanted to challenge myself more, and also develop what am I doing. So that's how my journey to the United States started, with getting accepted at Yale University. And it became a big challenge for me because I started to live in a very different environment, no heights, no level, it's almost like sea level. And actually, it was tough, but it opened so many other ways for me to challenge and think about the atmosphere of mountain.
Cool. Yeah, that was actually one of my questions. Because I saw in your art, landscapes like is huge. That's the main theme of your art. And I was kind of wondering like what or how that translated with you coming to the US. Is it like a way of you connecting or kind of like building a bridge between those two worlds, or can you speak more on that?
Sure. I think I had recently a solo show called An Absent You. I think during a couple of years that I've been living here, my feeling and my emotion, my thoughts has changed a lot. And I'm a kind of like in between, somewhere new and somewhere that I have memories from. So when I'm thinking about my memories back from home, like I think the mountains are still there. And it's me who is absent there. So my work is always very related to my personal life and personal story. I can't divide myself, to keep the mountain an individual object. Literally, it's kind of like it's me. So I felt like if I want to bring those mountains with me and create a mobile landscape, how it's gonna look like. So I ended up to cover the whole floor of the gallery with various pieces of carpet, and then I covered the whole room with a suspended pieces of fabric in the shape of mountains. So the audience was seeing a room full of like mountains. And I think memory and language became my main interest nowadays, especially thinking and talking in like two languages at the same time, Persian language and English language. So I use literature, poem, and a visual image of my voice frequency, and materials mostly from Iran and some from here, and kind of like recreate like the whole um, kind of like I can say the experience that I'm having so far.
Hmm. You mentioned poetry, and I did see also poetry on your website. Um, so with this exhibition, the title is "Our Tears Are Sweet, Our Laughter Venomous," and it being a quote from Simin Babahani. Is the quote a sentiment that you share also? And if it is, or if it's not, how does her poetry fit into the multiple roles that you take on as an artist?
Actually, Simine Behbahani is a great Iranian poet, and I think literature has an important place in our culture. And I think it's very twisted into our uh, personal, like everyday life. I don't think that my life is separate than that. And also, uh, being a poet or as a woman is a very important place to be, because it has been in a place of men for many years. And I can say the masters, Simin is one of the poeters that broke that, like environment of just seeing poeters as a man. And I think she has a really beautiful point of view, very sensitive. And I think like I can really connect myself to that, like beautiful point of view and sensitive, um, you know, sensitive like feeling about like my environment. I can totally feel myself related to that.
Yeah, kind of like how you were saying, how landscapes and mountains are, what connects you to home, and how you've managed to almost like translate into, now being in the US, that same emotion. I can definitely see like the sensitivity and the connection between her poetry and your art. Um, so let's see. You spoke about mediums and kind of the different materials that you like to use in your art. Um, can you speak more on that in terms of you said fabric was definitely one. What have you played around with different kinds of mediums? Is there like or different type of textures or anything? Like, is there anything that really you have a preference to, or that you prefer, I guess, when it comes to creating art?
Mhm. So, and the way that I start to work on an idea is like, I don't think about the medium first. I think about the idea, and how do I am thinking about it, and how it's gonna look like, and which material is gonna help me to create it in a way that I feel like this is what I exactly think about it. So usually I start this way, and I have like bodies of work that I have like sound drawing on glass, or painting on canvas, or sound installation, and some 2D paintings with fabric. I have like some poems that I wrote myself in Farsi and in English. So I think I don't keep myself just limited to one or two material. My material choice is related to the idea. But at some point, the experience that I had moving from Iran to US and folding the material of my work, like the fabrics, in a suitcase and carrying it across the ocean from east to west, brought this idea of like how I'm like making portable landscape. So I kind of like, because like I'm moving around a lot and it looks like a kind of like nomad style. I feel like the potential of working with fabric, that being able to fold it, put it in a suitcase, going somewhere else, unfolding it, setting up an installation, and then when I'm done, like easily I can deinstall and again fold it and put it in a suitcase, is very related to my like personal experience. For example, I have a piece that I call Mondkov. It's made out of hand-dyed cotton roll, and literally the whole installation, which is a huge piece, can fit in a carry-on, and I can just like take it wherever I need to. So that's I think probably something from like backstage of the work that I'm very interested that I can like take the landscape everywhere. And this quality of making it like suspended and playing with the altitude, like um, suspending it close to the ceiling or close to the floor is like very fascinating. And I feel like most of the time I'm finding the possibilities that I need with fabric.
Oh, that's really interesting. That's really poetic in a way too. Kind of how like you manage to find or be drawn to fabric in that way from your experience from home to the US and kind of using that in your art. That's really cool. Um, so there was a piece that I wanted to ask you specifically about,
Mhm.
and it's called An Absent View. Can you speak on your creative approach and the creative process behind creating that?
Sure. Actually, I mentioned it a few minutes ago.
Earlier?
Uh, yeah, an absent view. And
Oh, okay. I didn't hear it,
exactly.
sorry.
Yeah. So for that piece, I was, as I said, I was thinking about my memories back from home and like how I am absent there and how those memories are absent with me. It kind of like it doesn't have any physicality. And as an immigrant, I always think about physicality and non-physicality of the material choice, and uh, also like the main context of my work came out of my poem in Persian, The Blue Sky, that I'm talking about, that like how the world got like, my world got upside down and I lost all of my safety and I'm not seeing any mountain here. There is just a shadow of the object with me here. And I'm also mentioning in my poem that um, from the sky to the carpet and from carpet to the sky, how I'm going up and down in like my experiences as a new immigrant in this country. So I felt like it's a great reference to use it for this installation piece. So I decided to cover the whole floor with the carpet pieces and then keep the altitude. I hung the mountains lower,
Mhm.
close to the floor, and some of them are already like covering various parts of the carpets. And also I use like colorful strings and ribbons and ropes to connect the peaks of the mountains into the ceiling. So I kind of like, there are so many like up and down colorful lines shift the eyes of the audience from like to floor to the ceiling, from the ceiling to the floor. I wanted to play with that. And because the room was like, has a specific space, a very small rectangle, I decided to occupy the whole place with the installation. So the audience was able to walk around the piece in the room and be among the installation instead of just seeing it as a view. I was like trying to bring it like uh, visually very present and big, but it's still just in a room. And if you just like close the door, you're not gonna see anything. And if I open the door, you're gonna just see a part of the mountain and the rest of the installation with the carpet. And as you walk towards to that and you enter to the room, you will be able to see the whole thing. That's like, I wanted to put the audience in a kind of environment to like see this shifting, they experience it in person.
So almost like an immersive experience.
Hmm.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's really cool. And with that piece, was it more like so the name an absent view, is that something that you're recalling from your memory, or is it also something that you're meshing together from your memory but creating something new? Uh,
Yeah,
or
that's
a
the
little
thing.
bit of
Yeah.
both?
Mm-hmm.
The second one?
Yeah.
Okay. And so do you consider yourself a diasporic artist? And if so, how do you say that experience is reflected in your own work?
I mean, when you take a look at the definition of diasporic, it means that diasporic artists, it means like the artists who are like creating work out of their like original really region. Uh, it kind of like I'm experiencing it now because it's been a couple of years that I've been living and working here, and I haven't had a chance to go back to Iran. But I think I'm still new and I'm like still like in between, and I don't know how to describe it yet. I think probably it needs longer time to be more clear about like how am I feeling and what am I doing. I think I'm in the beginning of the way.
Hmm. So you're still, I guess, like trying to find a way to process that whole experience. Um,
True, true. Yeah.
um, and so, as an Iranian woman artist working in the US, are there any additional thoughts that you'd like to share in reflection of that experience? So, whether it's like how it affects your creative process or how you think about things, or how it's been entering the art world in the US, or anything at all?
Uh, I think one of the things that is like challenging is so when I was living in my country, I was facing with some challenges as a woman, and some of them was like stronger than me, and I wasn't able to fight back. And I was thinking with relocating and being in a different environment, I'm gonna be able to solve some of the challenges. But at some point, I noticed that that's never ever gonna happen, because when you go to a new environment, you're gonna be considered with another group of challenges. So it looks like kind of like endless, challenges are on me, and some of them causes me to grow, and some of them are like so painful, honestly. And I think it's been so challenging as a young artist to pursue my master degree and work in this like new environment and create bodies of work that like my audience is like wider than just being someone from my own community. It's been challenging, but I think also I learned a lot at how different contexts has different meanings with different backgrounds, and it gave me this um, like a wider perspective that when I create something, think about like how people can understand it. So because I have wider audiences now.
Yeah, and actually on that note, one of my questions was, is there anything that you ever hope viewers take away from your work? Or is it just kind of your expression of it and there's not really kind of like a goal to it? Can you speak on that?
Can you explain more what you mean?
Yeah, so I guess like when people are viewing your art, or even how you were talking about like the immersive experience, is there ever like a feeling or an emotion that you hope to evoke in people? Or any kind of takeaway that you hope people walk away with after viewing your art?
Of course, the reaction of my audience is always very important for me. And as I said previously, usually it comes from my personal experience. I remember the first year that I was student at Yale, and it was my first time experiencing being farther from home for a year. I was extremely homesick, and uh, I was like literally feeling that I can't stand on my emotions and homesickness. And I remember I made an installation for my one of my critic sessions that I asked a friend of mine in Tehran to with her phone and live send me live video from the sky of Tehran, and I projected on the wall like really big, two big with two big screens. And the room that I set up the installation, there was a skylight, and you were able to see the blue sky of New Haven. So I was literally trying to put my audience in a situation that how am I really feeling and experiencing. I remember they were telling to me like, oh, you can like FaceTime with your family and see them, so don't be upset. And I was literally always thinking it's not going to be the same, like it's never ever going to be the same. So with that installation, my aim was like bringing my audience back at the school to see the blue sky of New Haven at 10 a.m. and then seeing live videos of the sky in Tehran at 7 p.m., which was like late afternoon, cloudy, and it was a little bit raining. So like literally different. And then the hand of my friend was a little bit shaking. So like the level of intimacy that I have with someone like thousands of miles further from New Haven, like holding that camera for me and showing that like live video from the sky, I think it was very impressive for them to see that. And I think that was one of the successful installations that I had to put the audience in a kind of environment how an immigrant feels. Like, what does it mean being in between or missing home, or what does it mean trying to use some part of your life that is like invisible with the part of your life that is visible and combine them with each other and how it looks like. I think that was one of the moments that I was like literally feeling that I did it. Like literally, whoever was on that environment was able to see like the whole dynamic that I created on that room. So of course, I think it's so important for people to understand how an immigrant thinks or what it goes to. It shouldn't be always like sad or something like that. But it's good to, I think it's eye opening for people to see how different people go through different experience, and it's just different. It doesn't mean bad, because I faced with so many like judgmental people here. And I think they really need to understand and think that like as much as we have like human on the earth, we have that many ways to live, and
Yeah.
that's life.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that emotion is also super relatable, to a lot of people. Like I'm also an immigrant and I completely like that sounds amazing. To be able to create such a strong emotion and evoke it in people through your art. And it also, like, even if someone isn't an immigrant, like you said, it kind of creates that like line of connection, you know, like even though they may not know exactly what it's like they can now have a sense of what it's like, which is super important.
Mhm.
Um, and I think that that is it. Is there anything else that you would like to add or talk about?
I think I explained everything.
Awesome. Okay. Well, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. And I will keep in touch as I work with this.
Sure.
And all right, I hope you have a great day.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Thank you.